All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
What up, everybody? Oh, yeah, the party's already started. We started a few minutes before we actually hit the air. But it's a pleasure to be with you. Got the full crew for you. The whole gang is here. So a big, hearty, lottery-winning good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Yeah. I will say this. The lottery appears to be a lot harder to win than I thought it was. At 1 point... What is it now? Kim, what is it now, the
it's
lottery?
1.9 bill, my friend.
1.9 bill, baby. Come on.
See, the challenge is you have to get them in order.
Yeah, you can make a lot of changes to your life if you...
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, if you could win that 1.9 bill. I'd say even a solid bill, 100 mil would do it for me, actually. But fabulous producer John Daly's
Fabulous
here.
producer
And
John
Kim,
Daly.
as you know,
Kim,
you
how
just
are
heard
you?
her. And Tony's on the magic board.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, so we're all here, and we're excited that you could be a part of things. Got a lot to do today. Gary Dietrich in the second hour. There is significant question as to how much the GOP will dominate this midterm. But there is even a corner of the... by the way, somebody sent a... I think it was on the chat line. Somebody...
Why don't you just text it?
Yeah, somebody texted in the chat line. How come you touch the mic so much and hold the mic? I got to move the mic around. I try to move it out of the way of the shot. So that's one reason. But I do think I tend to hold the mic. Just it's a habit. So I hope you don't find it too...
It's like your comfort blanket.
Thank you. It's like my comfort
Linus.
blanket.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. That's exactly what it is.
Fabulous producer John Daly.
So there is an argument that the polls have it wrong, and that in key races, even close races, Democrats will prevail. Now, there are also some wild cards. That's what I want to talk to Gary Dietrich about. And voter turnout is obviously critical. You get great voter turnout, you likely will get increased Democratic participation. And when I say that, I don't mean it's just Democrats. I mean they're independents, obviously, also who will vote. But they'll vote for the Democrat on the ticket. So we're going to get to all of that. And I've got audio from Michael Moore. And then I'll run the scenarios for you. What would happen if it was truly a red wave, a big red wave? What would government look like? We'll run that a little bit. And then what if it was only a partial red wave? We'll run that a little bit. And coming up tomorrow, we'll have John Rothman joining. Dietrich today at 11. It's going to be a great ongoing conversation. And this is clearly an election, I think, during which a lot of processes, protocols, and standards are going to be checked. It will be probably a couple of days before we
processes and protocols
before we have the
standards.
full count. You know, it might even be some time. And as you know, in Georgia, which is a key race, Walker and Warnock, it may go to runoff. Very easily could go to runoff. So I want to recognize our founding sponsor. He is the OG when it comes to taxes. More than 30 years in the Bay Area. Steve Moskowitz is the man. MoskowitzLLP.com. You can also reach him at 1-800-TAX-DEAL, TAXDEAL, 1-800-TAX-DEAL. Any question you have. What's that?
888, not 800.
Oh, I said 800. 888, sorry. God, you think you know what's it's the daylight saving time. That's what's killing me. Anyway, it's 888 tax deal, 888 TAXDEAL for Steve Moskowitz. Now, daylight saving time, I thought we were done with this. It was a ballot measure, and we were done. We voted against it. It's the one thing that is a political winner, and that there is truly solidarity among Americans about. Everybody hates it. Everybody hates it. And there's scientific evidence to suggest that it is not just a little bad for you, that it is a shock to your system to the point that there can be any number of illnesses and physical maladies induced by just setting the clock forward and setting it back. But people have heart attacks over this crap. I don't understand why we still do it. And more to the point, we voted on it. It was voted out. So what happened with that? We have, Tony, you have that? Here's a little bit of what happened and where that national legislation sits on daylight saving time.
Daylight saving time brings sunshine, smiles, and savings.
I've watched sporting events be called, youth sporting events be called in
You
the
turn it
middle
up a
or
little
near
bit?
the end of the game before it's actually concluded because there's not enough lights.
Okay.
Any parent who has worked so hard to get a newborn or a toddler on a regular sleeping schedule understands the absolute chaos changing our clocks creates. And
So
for
these
no
are
good
all
reason.
speeches in Congress.
Senate unanimously passed the bill in March, but it's stuck in the House over debate on which time, daylight or standard, is the one to lock our clocks on.
So this again is, it's gridlock-ish, but you don't have it gridlock owing to party. You have gridlock owing to debate. It's absurd, and they ought to change it. And I would, this is the kind of thing, like you get a president who likes the bully pulpit like Donald Trump, and he'd make this a big issue. How come Congress can't get their act together? Let's do this. This seems like a layup, and it's a political winner. It's also a little thing. You may say, Mark, there's inflation, there's Ukraine, there are guns in America, there's crime. Really? Daylight saving time? Yes, because it's an easy thing that everybody has rallied around already. So, but as I say, it's been orphaned by politicians.
Yeah, even at the state level, it has been, because the state of California, the voters passed a law to do away with it. And then, at least the way it looks, is it was Kansan Chu from San Jose, an assembly
That's
person.
right.
And then, so Chu gets this law passed, which will allow the assembly to do away with daylight saving in California. And then they don't do it. And he leaves office. And so then it becomes this, thing that's just sitting there. So now there's someone else taking up the mantle, but still even at a state level, they can't get a law passed, even though the voters said, go ahead and do it.
Well, they needed to get federal approval for that law. So that was the hang up. But he would have been championing it for a long time, but he's no longer in office. So it lost its champion.
Again, it seems to be something that could be easily championed, and it would be a political winner and actually serve the needs of the people on some level.
So
at
it's
least
passed the Senate, and it's waiting for the House to
sitting
take it
in the
up.
House.
Yeah,
That's right.
and there are industry people that are trying to fight it. Certain groups are trying to fight it.
Anyway, that's that. You can reach us on the text line in YouTube.
Why don't you just
and you can
text
reach
it?
us on the text line in YouTube, even if you're watching this on replay. So you're not part of the live chat. And I love the live chat as a community, but even the delayed chat where somebody leaves a comment on the replay, other people can comment. So the community continues. I think that's the great advantage to this platform. Obviously, we've had to get rid of a lot of stuff that we really enjoy, certain music that we like, certain, I'd play you certain cuts from film and television. I really have to stay away from those for trademark reasons or for copyright reasons, I should say. But I think the benefit to YouTube is that it brings a community together that can interact with each other. So that's kind of cool. There was one thing on daylight saving time. This is a little coda to it, just like a little addition. Coda is a ding word, as established last week. There was a guy whose obit was written. I think it was it was like Idaho it was Mississippi. It was Mississippi. There's a guy who I was reading his obit, and his obit goes, he was an avid golfer. He hated this. He loved, hot dogs and baseball, whatever, all that stuff that an obit says. Great father, whatever. And then this. He particularly hated daylight saving time, which he referred to as the devil's time. It is not lost on his family that he died the very day that he would have had to set his clock forward. This is an old obit. This can only be viewed as his final protest, the family wrote in the obit. Anyway, that's the word on daylight saving time, which kicked in over the weekend. The other thing that kicked in over the weekend was an interesting riff on the NFL show, the one that's done by James Brown, it's the show that precedes the game where they talk about, it's a very well-watched show. Fox does one, ESPN does one, and CBS does one. And then, of course, all of them do now, Amazon does one and NBC does one before their game. James Brown took a moment on that show to talk about the Kanye West anti-Semitism run and sort of spoke to the hate that now has been adopted by so many in high-profile positions. I say so many. I mean, you've got athletes and musicians who are speaking out in ways that are poisonous. And here's a bit of James Brown from over the weekend.
Folks, and shifting gears to a more unfortunate headline from this week. All of my colleagues up here at the desk, we've all played for and coached sports and other good teams, and we have all experienced the truths and the beautiful outcomes that apply not just in sports, but they are applicable in the game of life. We all know the championships are overwhelmingly won by those who display teamwork and togetherness. But there is a serious threat to that principle today with the frightening rise in anti-Semitism, in particular, hate in general. And we're seeing that contagion not just in sports, but music, politics, and across society. Folks, hate is a disease. It is a virus that spreads and kills. Now, to cast doubt on or state definitively that the Holocaust did not happen, that's as hurtful and wrong as saying the lynching of black people didn't happen or that being enslaved was a choice. To perpetuate hurtful and false narratives, to refuse to disavow bigoted messages, and to fail to take responsibility when one's actions and words inflict harm is simply unacceptable. Words do matter, especially coming from highly visible people. Their words influence people's attitudes and behaviors. And I pray fervently that those with hearts of teamwork, togetherness, and love will speak more loudly and persuasively to prevail against this viciousness. No matter how idealistic this may sound, it is the truth, because that is how we defeat hate.
I thought that was a real gutsy thing to do in the middle of a broadcast that could have just been all about, well, these are the injuries this week, and this is about the offense, and, et cetera. So that was good on James Brown. Also over the weekend, Bay Area children's hospitals packed with sick kids. Emergency room doctors are saying this RSV and other respiratory viruses are basically forcing these emergency rooms and Bay Area children's hospitals into a very tough situation. This is their pandemic, they're saying. We've had our highest volume days at Oakland and San Francisco, more than any time in the past 5 years. RSV and other respiratory illnesses are hitting kids much harder than COVID-19, is what doctors are saying. If you're not a kid, this is a flu season that's already hitting with greater intensity. I don't know if you got the flu virus. I got the flu shot. I got it. I inadvertently hit my keyboard. Is that what, did I remove myself from the stream, Tony? Is that what I did?
Yeah.
I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, the flu virus is hitting particularly hard. So I encourage people to get the flu vaccine. It's, I think, about 50% effective in preventing you from getting the flu. And
100% effective. How about that?
It's not 100% effective. It's 50% effective. I do think that the 100% effective thing is the life-changing world of Mark merch, which you can see behind me. Do you see that's the KGO and Exile t-shirt, which I do recommend.
I like it.
I went with the black. There's black and white, and then it sits alongside the tote bag. But look at that. KGO and Exile t-shirt. You can wear the revolution, my friends. Wear the rebellion. And the money goes to supporting the show. So I encourage you to visit the merch site. And actually, there at the merch site, there are the mugs, there are the hydration systems. There's a cute picture of me and a bow tie. There's the hat. Yeah, there it is. The mugs have the different phrases on them. Like they'll have, why don't you just text it?
Why don't you just text it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can get a, I love the potholders too. I think the potholders are great. And by the way, it's a perfect stocking stuffer. It's a low-cost item, the potholders. And I think it would enhance any home.
Where are my weed smokers
No, it's
at?
not that kind of pot. It's just, for hot things. Right. But you can get a Where Are My Weed Smokers At? So I have to tell you a quick story about this. You can get a Where Are My Weed Smokers at mug at getmarkmerch.com. Everybody is supporting in the super chat, and you're supporting with stickers, and you're supporting on Patreon. We will recognize you in different ways, and I'll recognize you bottom of the hour. So here's what happened with the Where's My Weed Smokers. I had some people over, and I had gotten a bunch of mugs. Some of them had phrases on them, some of them didn't. And you can get the blank one, it just has the logo. So they're teenage kids, and I said, I want you all to have something, I'm excited about, the stuff just came in. I think it might have just arrived the day prior. So I reached in and I gave them, it comes in these styrofoam, which is too bad, but that's just the way it comes, packaging. And they open them up, and they're the mugs, as I knew they were, but they both say, where are my weed smokers at? And these kids are like 14, and the parents looked at me like, dude, really? So I had to scramble to make that right. It didn't go down.
Were you like, oh, sorry, man. Oh, dude, sorry.
Dude, they're doing weed, okay, already? Yeah. No, I did not.
Keep it on the DL, Thompson.
Yeah. Hey, man, that was our secret.
Not cool.
Twitter.
Not cool.
Twitter is reversing field. Company to now delay the $8 blue check subscription plan until after the midterms. It was received with such ire, wasn't it? It was received with
First
such
it was
irritation.
$19.99, and then it was $8, and now we're not going to do it right now.
Right, exactly. They kept backpedaling, but
Surprised they didn't go with $9.99.
yeah, $9.99 would have. That is, we're a $9.99 nation. I told you, but I think the bigger change at Twitter is as follows. Twitter laid off a bunch of people. We told you they were going to. We told you the way it happened. We reviewed for the way they sealed the offices. We reviewed the way they made the key cards inoperative. It took everybody's email, except they sent emails to those who would continue to work there, and those people would be kept on. It turned out to be about between, what were the percentages? Something like 65% of the staff was still there, but isn't that right? 35% of the staff was let go, something along those lines.
60% of the time?
It works every time.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Twitter now, after laying off all those people, thousands of them, Twitter has asked some laid off workers to come back to work.
What?
And by the way, bring your passwords. Yeah, and show us how to work this thing. Right.
I can't find the on switch.
Right. After Twitter Inc. laid off roughly half its staff on Friday, following Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition, the company is now reaching out to dozens of employees who lost their jobs and asking them to return. Some of those who are being asked to return were laid off by mistake, they say.
Whoever is producing this thing.
Right. This has been a...
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
My
They need to work
You
on
do
their
not
process.
know what you are talking about.
Right.
I mean, we'll say this for Cumulus. At least they meant business, right? They didn't turn
Yeah,
around the next day and go, oh, you know what? Sport betting doesn't seem to be such a good idea to us after all. No.
Yeah, they didn't lay us off, then rehire us and go, wait a minute, we should have let you say goodbye. You're right. I mean,
Seriously, nobody cares.
Yeah. That's right. So now they are bringing back a lot of that staff, or some of that staff. It's funny because I think all of us who've worked for big corporations have been part of bloodlettings before. Even at KGO, we thought, well, we went through a huge bloodletting, and maybe this will be, even though it was already a pretty lean operation, maybe there's some readjustment here. It's not going to be, killing off the radio station. But I remember at Fox when I worked there, I worked for the Fox-owned station in Los Angeles. They let 125 people go. It was one of the saddest things, man. We had a big farewell party. Really, I was choked up over it. And then they did exactly what Twitter's doing. They started hiring them per diem. Now, I don't know if that was part of their plan because you can get out of paying benefits that way, but many of them were rehired and were working essentially the same schedule, but they were working no longer with company benefits and as a stated full-time employee. We'll see how Twitter reconstitutes itself. He's going to have to do something to make that money-making platform, but it's in serious trouble right now because it's taking a lot of stink, isn't it? Because he's made bold early moves and none of them have been well received by the public. So,
and that's, I guess I ask who wants to do that, although I did, because that happened to me at Station X, where they blew out the newsroom and then I was hired back a couple days later per diem, as you mentioned. But I just wonder, if you are part of a mass email, you get laid off in your sleep, basically, and then you wake up to this message saying, thank you very much, you're out. Do you want to go back? Or do you take all that company history and knowledge with you as you, fly the middle finger on your way out?
Right. It depends probably on where you are in your
How
life,
much money
with your
you're
family.
making. If these
Exactly.
people are making six figures, they could go back and then plan their departure.
Sadly, it does depend on that. Yeah, if you go back, you're going back with a different attitude, and that is, I'm a short timer, probably, right? So anyway, more on that as we get more details. I've still got a chunk of Trump coming up. I mentioned we'll go over the midterms with Gary Dietrich coming up, and it is Mark's Murder Monday. Courtney will be here, and she will take us through her latest true crime thriller, as we do now every Monday. It's the Mark Thompson Show, live on the Tube.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Love this guy, Steve Moskowitz. He is our founding and exclusive sponsor. Come on, a Monday daylight saving round of applause for Steve Moskowitz.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Steve, I want to ask you something that doesn't have to do with what we usually touch on ERC and stuff, but I wanted to ask you about a situation that can really be quite common. And that is, if you don't have the means in your judgment, you don't have the funds to pay your tax bill, what do you do?
You call us. And Mark, this is a very common problem. It's the number one reason people just don't even file returns, which is wrong in and of itself. So, and I've seen tragedies. I've seen multiple suicides over this. I saw a father give up his son for adoption because of this. I've seen countless marriages break up because of this. I've seen countless businesses ruined. It's all because it doesn't have to be. I feel like I'm a medical doctor that has the cure for something, and people are just suffering and dying because they didn't take the pill or the injection. And if you can't pay your taxes, you have a lot of company, and it's okay. In almost all cases, we can go to the government for you, and we make a deal. One of the deals is something called an offer in compromise. That's where you just pay the government part, and they forgive the rest. And I could talk all day about that.
That's unbelievable. Just stop right there. That's unbelievable to me. So I have a tax bill. You go on my behalf, and you make an offer in compromise, and they're open to this in enough of the time that is that
absolutely? Again, you have to qualify. There's 3 different ways to qualify. One way is you don't have the income and assets to pay it, which is common, very common. Second way is you say the tax is wrong. And the third way, and you're going to be amazed at the third way. I'll wait till you finish the coffee. I don't want you spitting it out. The third way is because you say it would be unfair for you to pay the taxes. What do you mean unfair? For example, you're sick and you say, look, you need the medicine to save your life. That would be an example of it.
Okay.
And it's called offer and compromise. Again, like everything else, not everybody qualifies, but if you qualify, it's great. And if you don't, there's lots of other things we can do. For example, we can pay in monthly installments, or we can ask that the penalties be forgiven. There's a lot of good reasons to forgive penalties, and penalties can be substantial. Sometimes penalties are more than the taxes, because if you don't file a return, the penalty is 25% of the tax. If you don't pay it, it goes up to 25% of the tax. And they put interest on top of that. And all of a sudden, sometimes we have clients that owe more than that than the tax. We can ask for forgiveness. We can also ask for something that's called a hardship deferral. Suppose, for example, you have somebody that, say, suddenly without warning gets fired. Say he's sitting back working, all of a sudden he hears music and he doesn't have a job anymore. That happens.
I see what you're doing, by the way. I see what you're doing.
That happens. I'm just saying, it could be anybody.
It could be, hey, Mark, it could be anything. I just picked that as a random example.
Just a random example. And, people lose their jobs every day, or their businesses go south. And the bottom line is, say, look, you know what? I just got fired, or I lost my business. Leave me alone for a while. And then when I get back on my feet, I'll come back. I'll talk to you. We'll work something out. And we do all this for you in almost every case. You don't have to talk to the government, deal with them, having to do with them. But watch out. The government is really going after people now. These new 87,000 IRS agents they're hiring are not going to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And President Biden has said that he wants, for every dollar he spends on the IRS, he wants multiple dollars back to him. And look at all the government giveaways. We talk about ERC every day, and lots of other things in Ukraine and everything else. The government's going to come up with that money somehow, and it's through tax collection.
Well, I mean, it's great to have an ally, and Steve Moskowitz is that ally. I would encourage you to reach out to him at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. Moskowitz is spelled Moskowitz, and LLP, of course, is LLP. So it's Moskowitz, LLP.com. He is our founding sponsor, our exclusive sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Talk to you next hour, sir. Yeah, good stuff.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show. Got a chunk of Trump coming up. Also have Mark's Murder Monday. And the text line is way live. Will you guys put anything you see, John? Will you throw it in there that you feel that we should pay attention to? I'd be happy to entertain any texts and certainly respond to any questions. Musk tweeted, workers receive 3-month severance, which is 2 times what is legally required. That may be the legal limit, but not what is typical for Silicon Valley. Oh, that's interesting. JR, not JR Stone. Thank you for that. Huh. Interesting. Mark, will you move to Madison?
Mastodon.
Oh, this is interesting. What is it?
Mastodon.
Mastodon is a new platform, John?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with it.
No one is.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Well, I'll go wherever the crew takes me.
I heard it's confusing. They send out emails that people can't figure out.
Can we get tomorrow? Mel, tomorrow will be busy with election stuff too, and we got election stuff coming up today. But I'd love to later in the week. Maybe we'll get Mastodon. We'll go look at their website or whatever. Counter Social or Blue Sky as well. So the answer, Liz, is obviously I'm not familiar with them. I suppose I would. Right now, Twitter just feels like it's like a well-oiled machine in terms of reaching a lot of people at one time. But yeah, I mean, if it becomes too toxic an environment, I mean, I don't know what too toxic an environment is, but
Blue Sky is the one that's founded by Jack Dorsey, so I think that one probably has more promise.
Yeah. Mark, will you move to Methadone?
No, he will not do that.
That's from Tom, who's a great.
You were thinking about Truth Social, right?
Right.
Yeah, Truth Social is more of your jam.
You saw where the people who invested in Trump's. I hope I have this. I was reading this, and I meant to. Here it is. Let me see. Trump supporters who bought and invested millions in that Digital World Acquisition Corporation attempting to merge with Donald Trump's Twitter clone, which is Truth Social. That's what made me think of it when John mentioned Truth Social. Announced that they postponed a critical shareholder vote for the 6th time ahead of a mandatory liquidation date of December 8th. It's a struggling shell company. They're going to reconvene later this month, November 22nd. They think that they haven't gotten objective observers think that they haven't. So again, this is a shell company where investors are essentially pouring money in, Trump supporters largely, to try to merge with Truth Social and essentially create a digital network. Under the terms of the incorporation, the company was supposed to merge with a private firm within 1 year's time or dissolve and reimburse its investors at about $10 a share. Now it looks as though liquidation is more likely, right? They don't think they're going to get this merger off. And,
did you see the name of the company?
No, what is it?
Trump Media and Technology Group. Doesn't that have credibility?
Yeah.
The Trump Technology Group?
Trump, well, the thing about Trump is that...
there's never been anything like this.
Yeah, that he has lost interest in this, apparently. Observers say Trump himself appears increasingly uninterested in the company or its stockholders, that he's struggled to defend itself from the company has to defend itself from a criminal investigation that executives of this company engaged in prohibited insider trading. What a surprise that is. A Trump organization usually seems so straight. And there is a separate inquiry from the Securities and Exchange Commission about allegations of illegal contact between the shell company, DWAC is what it's called, the officers of that company, and the leadership of Trump Media and Technologies Group, as the one that John was referring to. So it's got a lot of problems.
There's never been anything like this.
Anyway, I've got Kim's news upcoming. That wasn't the chunk of Trump I wanted to do. I had. Can I do a quick chunk of Trump before Kim?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Here's your chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
Well, I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's going to be something. I don't know if beautiful is the... but it was, I thought, revealing to see Donald Trump on the stump this weekend. You know, the Democratic candidates rolled out presidents, right? Obama was there, Biden was there. You saw a real surge of support from Washington. And the GOP candidates rolled out Trump. And he's all too happy to speak to a crowd. But when he mentioned Ron DeSantis, sadly, for the candidates, usually it's about Trump talking about himself and the election and all this kind of thing. He mentioned Ron DeSantis, and he kind of, you know how he beta tests his hate? He'll beta test a nickname, like
He's kind of like a comedian working on material.
Yes, working on material. That's exactly right, John. So here he was beta testing something for Ron DeSantis, is who he's, of course, probably challenged most seriously by for the nomination. This is all just buzz and talk right now and speculation. But
we're winning big in the Republican Party for the nomination like nobody's ever seen before. Let's see, there it is, Trump at 71, Ron DeSanctimonious at 10%.
Ron DeSanctimonious. That's the, didn't get a huge reaction.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. I think it's
Let's see, there it is, Trump at 71, Ron DeSanctimonious at 10%.
I don't know.
They're all grabbing their dictionaries.
Yeah. Well, the guy who's the most serious threat to take on Trump is Ron DeSantis. And let me say, Democrats, you should be scared of Ron DeSantis because he can bring over independent voters who will not be able to stomach a vote for Trump. Trump is a real problem for a lot of independent voters. DeSantis is not. And DeSantis is essentially a Trump in terms of policy and outlook, immigration policies, when I talk about policies, and even protectionist policies when it comes to international trade. these are all things that are wrapped in a much more palatable sort of candidate than is Trump. So watch for that. Palatable is a ding word. That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
We'll check out the text line. We will also check out so many of you who've supported us so far. Don't forget to hit the like button when you join us. You got to smash that like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Hit the like button, and even if you're watching in replay, hit the like button. You've got to hit it.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Smash it.
Absolutely
Smash
smash.
it. Smash it. You've got to smash. Yeah.
Smash.
Yes. Smash.
Absolutely
Right.
smash.
Yes.
Smash.
So smash the like button with your iron rod or with your thumb. We also encourage you to support us in all the other ways that we've detailed for you before. Anyway, on the other side, we'll acknowledge many of you who've stepped up. And Courtney is here with Mark's Murder Monday. Oh, she's just entered the studio, and she has that look of murder on her face.
Oh,
yeah, I know
no.
that could be troubling. All right, we continue. Kim's news next, and we'll do all of that as we come back.
Look for some coffee and hope for
The Mark
best.
Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Voters in 5 states will weigh in on abortion-related measures in Tuesday's midterm elections. Vermont, California, and Michigan will vote on constitutional amendments to protect abortion rights following the Supreme Court's decision to strike down Roe v. Wade earlier this year. Meanwhile, a measure in Kentucky would establish that state constitution doesn't protect the right to abortion. In Montana, a so-called Born Alive law will be put on the ballot. It would require medical care to be provided to infants born alive following a botched abortion. Republicans and Democrats are both expressing confidence ahead of tomorrow's election. Appearing on NBC's Meet the Press, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney said his party is going to do better than people think on Tuesday night. The New York Democrat promising his party will continue to tackle the big issues of the day like economy and crime. On the same program, Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott said the GOP will have a great night. He also claimed Democrats have no energy on their side. Authorities are expected to provide more details about the discovery of the remains of Alexis Gabe. It's a story we've been following on the Mark Thompson Show. More than 9 months after she was seen, last seen, I should say, remains were found over the weekend. The update from the Oakley Police Department is expected to happen within the next half hour. Gabe's father is scheduled to speak at the news conference. Now, Alexis Gabe disappeared January 29th after visiting her ex-boyfriend, Marshall Jones, in Antioch. Her partial remains finally discovered last Thursday, about 80 miles away in the Sierra foothills. Police believe her remains may be scattered in different cities. Jones was suspected of Gabe's murder. Marshall Jones, her former boyfriend, and was on the run. Now, police caught up with him in Seattle, where officers shot and killed him while attempting to make an arrest. And of course, as Mark mentioned, Twitter is delaying account verifications until after Election Day. The company updated its app for Apple devices Saturday, promising users who pay an $8 subscription fee would get that blue check mark on their profile. However, the rollout put on hold yesterday. This after new CEO Elon Musk cut nearly half his staff on Friday, and some apparently let go by mistake are now being asked to return. There was a huge stack of SAT exams lost while being transported by UPS in West Texas. The carrier now apologizing. A social media post, though, showed the answer sheets blowing down the street in El Paso.
Oh, my God. That's just so brutal.
You take the SAT, and there they are, blowing down the street in El Paso.
I mean, it's so pressure-filled, the SAT, to begin with, that it's a horrifying period in a child's life, and then you finally get through with it, and then you find that your answer sheets are blowing down a street in El Paso, Texas.
The answer, my friend, blowing in the wind. The school district says all but 55 exams have been recovered. So those 55, I guess, take it again. A good
Pretty
thing
brutal.
if you blew the SAT, you gotta, re-rack, reset, and get it going. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, please give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can reach him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, usually we play I know what happened. That's my fault. Usually we play a sweeper here. Yeah, whoever is producing. I'll blame John, but it really is my fault, yeah. Okay, well, you want to play it anyway?
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for Coup Day.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson. It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Wow. Well, that was very strong. You're right. Now I'm glad we ran it. It's great to have everybody with us. We are on the tube. That is you. Mark Thompson Show. I am Mark. I've got the full crew here. I'm looking down at my monitor, which says the fabulous producer John Daly's on
Fabulous
board.
producer John Daly.
And you just heard Kim's news.
Kim, how are you?
Yes, and Tony is the maestro.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, so very, very cool. Gail Guthrie, a regular supporter. And thank you for the super sticker, Gail. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Very, very cool, Gail. $19.99. Eric Kennedy, 10 for the show, an extra 30% to cover YouTube costs. Yeah, YouTube takes a chunk. $13. Thank you. Bill Mann with $9.99. We're a $9.99 nation. Thank you, Bill Mann.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Sylvia Banks for $1.99.
Thank you so much.
That's really, really cool. Wow, very cool. You can support us all with the super stickers and also with the super chat. And if you support us with the super chat and you have something you want to say, you can attach the thing you want to say to the super chat, and we will read it 100% of the time. But thank you for that. You can support the show also on an ongoing basis on Don't Ever Say the Tube That Is You Again. How dare you question the way Oh, really? There's other support for that?
You were working on that material all weekend, weren't you?
Look, it came to me this morning. The tube that is you.
Yeah.
You don't like it? I'll lose it.
It's very zen.
I'm not married to it. My God.
Well, you could fire half your staff if you feel like it.
No, at any point, I could bring a Musk-like, I could smash all of you with my
with your iron rod.
Yes, I could smash. You can't just smash the like button. I could smash the staff if I wanted to. Sadly, I'm desperately in need of the staff. I would never in a second suggest that I could do anything without the staff. So I'm grateful. I cling to the staff like a baby to its mama's leg. Now, what are we doing? Speaking of which, do I need to read anything else, John, or can I bring on Courtney with Mark's Murder Monday?
It's time to move on.
Okay, thank you. I feel like that's a drop. It's time to move on as a drop. Please welcome the princess of murder. She is my darling in life, and she is Courtney, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. She is our true crime devotee, analyst, and storyteller.
I am.
Yeah, this is a start of a new franchise, Mark's Murder Monday.
Yeah, I never thought that this passion of mine would be the first time that I would be on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
pretty
exciting.
exciting.
It is pretty exciting. We're going to need to get a... Now, I've mentioned this before, and I'll just do it in 30 seconds or less. Courtney doesn't like to have her picture taken when we're in public. We're together, even group pictures. She always gets out of the picture. It's kind of awkward sometimes, in fact. But that's the reason she's not on camera right now. And we also don't have enough for a second camera yet. We got to dress that area before we can have a second camera anyway. So, but we will, Courtney, you will provide some kind of pic so that we can post it
Yes.
in the future.
Yes, there's a lot to live up to. So being your partner, I think.
Oh, well,
people
thank
have
you.
a certain
Thank you.
expectation.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. There's so many people too. Yeah. Anyway, that's
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Courtney. All right, Courtney, what do you have for us today in the way of murder?
The murder I chose today was because after nearly 50 years, they identified the victim last week.
Oh,
and
wow.
what I thought was particularly interesting was that the lead suspect was from the Bay Area and was a radio host.
Oh, my God. That is unreal.
What? So for those reasons, I thought that this would be a really interesting story.
My God, you've got me.
I know.
All right. I'm ready.
It's fantastic.
Let's listen to this story.
And I will say that some of the sources I used were the SF Gate and the Californian. So
okay.
If anybody's interested in reading more about this story, but after nearly 50 years, the Lady of the Dunes murder victim who remained unidentified was identified last week. So the story is on July 26 in 1974, a 13-year-old girl was walking with her family and her dog. And
we have the picture. We have the picture up now if you're watching on YouTube.
There you go. And at Race Point Dunes in Provincetown, stumbled upon what she originally thought was a dead animal. But it was unfortunately a gruesome scene. There was a woman laying on a green beach towel, and she was clearly dead. She had been nearly decapitated, and her hands and some of her teeth were missing. And actually, her hands were buried in the sand with pine needles around them, almost to make it look as if she was doing push-ups, but clearly to make it more difficult to identify the body.
Let me just say at this point in the story, this is why I don't listen to these podcasts or watch this stuff. It's so gruesome and awful.
Yeah, but I think in many ways, I don't know, fans of true crime are listening to it to obviously solve what has happened. And stories like this help to make sure that the person who perpetrated the crime will go on to be punished for that. But I'll get into that in a second on who the lead suspect is. So she was about 25 to 40 years old. She had auburn hair, was wearing blue Wrangler jeans, and had a blue bandana. There was no signs of struggle at the scene, so they believe that she might have been there laying on the blanket with someone that she knew, and this person attacked her. And it was only last week, through genetic genealogy, that they actually took her some of the DNA and were able to match her with a living relative through one of these genealogy sites, one of these ancestral sites. Yeah. Wow. So her name is Ruth Marie Terry. A few months before she died, she married a man named Guy Rockwell Moldovan. And this is the connection to the Bay Area. So Guy was not a good guy. In 1960, he was named a suspect of the disappearance in his second wife and her daughter. Ruth actually went on to be his third wife. And in some of the media reports, when they were talking about him as a suspect in his second wife and her daughter's murder, they reported him as a sometimes actor and DJ, an antique dealer, and a, quote, con artist and great lover, which I thought was a really interesting title to give to him.
A con artist and great lover?
Yeah, they were married, the two. I don't know if someone gave that to him or if he sort of gave that to himself, but the police searched his home at the time and discovered human remains in the septic tank. So it was pretty well known that he had killed his second wife and her daughter. He was also a suspect in a murder of a truck driver and that truck driver's girlfriend in Humboldt County years before. This gentleman, or this man, I should say, Guy, he was a radio show host in Pacific Grove on KAZU, and he lived in Salinas for 22 years. That's actually where he died, and that's the connection to the Bay Area. Yeah.
A radio host.
I know.
With the remains of people in his septic tank or whatever. In his,
yeah.
Do you guys have a septic tank?
We do not, John, please.
We used to. But we do have a radio host.
We do.
We do have that. I'll quickly mention, just because there's another connection to the show.
And Little Anthony.
Yeah, Joe Box and Little Anthony are
but I'll just mention that Actually, Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King, famously theorized that the Lady of the Dunes was an extra in Jaws. There was a woman who was an extra in Jaws, and she had auburn hair and was wearing Wranglers and a blue bandana. And it was actually Carl Gottlieb, who I know is a friend of the show, who was the screenwriter of Jaws, that went back to look at the production notes to see if the timing had aligned on when Jaws was shot and when this murder happened.
Oh,
And
that's
in fact,
interesting.
it
I'll have to
would've.
ask Carl about that.
So there's a bit of a rumor around that. I don't know if it is in fact Ruth.
And we have it up again on the screen. If you're watching, you can see I guess that's the woman the extra in Jaws in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I've definitely heard of that rumor before, and it doesn't mean that that's not Ruth, because they actually didn't take the names of the extras in shooting Jaws, so it very well could have been her. There were about 100 miles between where Jaws was shot and where the murder happened. But her husband died in Salinas, I believe in 2000. So unfortunately, if he is the perpetrator of this crime,
justice can't really be done.
Justice won't be served.
He got away with it. Well,
yeah.
It's interesting that with a trail so clear, it would seem. I mean, with other allegations and evidence that he was involved in other past murders, that there wasn't sufficient linkage to prosecute him on this. Or you're saying because she wasn't identified?
She wasn't identified.
Yeah, that's just
she was only identified this past week, and so,
because of the lack of DNA at the time.
Yeah, because of it. They exhumed her body in 1980, in 2001, and in 2013. So actually, the lead detective at the time when the murder happened, from what I heard, he kept her skull in his office for 30 years to remind him every day that the death of this woman, she remained anonymous and it remained unsolved.
Wow.
And so it was a very unfortunately well-known crime in Massachusetts. And so to have her identity and to have a man who died and wouldn't be able to have, justice served is unfortunate. But I imagine it's better for the family to know what had happened to their relative.
That is brutal. That really is brutal. Gosh. Well, Courtney, thank you for that.
Of course.
I thought your debut went very well.
Oh, thank you.
Supporting visuals, which we very seldom get.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that was very, very nice.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come next
Thank
week
you.
with another murder.
Yes.
Yeah, very exciting. And if anybody has suggestions,
Yeah, send them to us.
as well.
You can reach the show at, what's the address, John? The Mark Thompson Show?
The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, the Mark Thompson Show. You have to write that. If you don't write the, then it goes somewhere else.
I wonder if we're going to be seeing a bunch of these old cold cases like this solved because of the use of genealogy. It seems like more and more we're finding that, and that's fascinating.
Yeah.
If you love Courtney, as do I, smash that like button for Courtney.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
No, are you kidding? We love having you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Courtney,
you, guys.
we love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good times with Courtney, everybody. Yeah, what do you think? Come on. There's a big,
The Mark Thompson Show. Thompson Show.
Yes, not enough shadow. I can never get enough shadow. So good. There's much happening here.
Use Mark Thompson.
Oh, well, there's that too. Yeah.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
And there's that also, I must say.
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Call me a liar. Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar. You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
A Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Feel the groove, Kim.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
What up, Pat Thurston?
Yeah.
What up, Larry King?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
What up, weed smoker?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
No defense! Smash it like a boss.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Great to have you here. We've got a full hour. Gary Dietrich joining us. We're going to break down the GOP and the red wave. How big could it be? Might it be overstated? Is there a way the Democrats actually can make a stand in key states? There is, actually, and it's spoken to in a couple of different ways, one of which is Michael Moore's comments over the weekend. We'll play you some of those. But what would a GOP-controlled government look like? We'll talk about that as well in the next hour. I'm grateful to everybody who's supported the show all the ways you do. We have the merch site to give you something. We have new ways coming that you can both support us and get something for your support. All of our patrons who subscribe to this channel on Patreon, we run your names at the end of the show. We're so grateful to everyone. This is really an appeal along the lines of what you hear on public television or public radio. Like, we need your support. Otherwise, there's no way we can continue. So
Viewers
please.
like you.
Viewers like you. So I make the plea legit. It's a legit plea because without you, we go away. And
Yeah, we don't have the
it's too-
Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Yeah, exactly. NPR's got a lot of money.
Yeah. They have that Darlene Shiley money. Have you ever seen her?
No.
She spent
I
so
haven't.
much money that she gets to introduce all these shows like Masterpiece because her husband was like a billionaire who
is
invented a
that
heart
right?
valve. Yeah. Down in San Diego. And now she gets to be on TV all the time.
Well, you know something, John? You've maybe happened upon something which we may want to do. In fact, later this week, after the midterms are over and the dust settles, as I say, we're going to talk to Gary about how things are shaping up and the different scenarios by which government could look in a number of different ways when the votes are all counted. We may want to, for some wealthy donor to the Mark Thompson Show, we may want to afford them the opportunity. Yeah, sell out. Thank you. Those are the words I was looking for. We may want to sell out. You know.
I wanted to ask you, have you done the DNA test?
No. Have you done it?
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
That could be like an upgrade feature, though. You know, am I related to a murderer? Like you pay an extra $20 when you throw that in? Because right now you can upgrade and you can get the health report, you know.
If you just joined us, we just finished hearing from Courtney on Mark's Murder Monday about the identity of a murder victim, the identity revealed because of one of those DNA tests, and DNA wasn't sophisticated at all when she was murdered. It didn't even exist. And now with everybody, well, DNA is, the science, of course, is well developed.
Ridiculous?
Yeah, the science is ridiculous. Where is the science is ridiculous? I'm not continuing. I'm not going to Kim until we have the science is ridiculous.
The science is ridiculous.
Thank you. Anyway, the science now has revealed the murder victim and the likely perpetrator of the murder. But no, I haven't done it. I don't know. I'm not really curious, to be honest. Maybe I should be.
Well, I'm such a mix that I wanted to confirm that the milkman was not my father.
Oh.
Have you done it, Kim?
I haven't either.
Yeah.
Not because I think I'm related to a murderer, but just the whole privacy thing bothers me.
Yeah, there's that too. So, all right, everyone. Gary Dietrich will be up next after Kim's news. We'll talk about the midterm elections and really get into what government could look like under a GOP control and also under partial GOP control. I mean, obviously you can surrender an arm of government and it can still make substantial changes to government itself. So thanks for being here. The Mark Thompson Show. Smash the like button, please, and participate in all the different ways that you do. Thanks for your support. We will continue. Gary standing by and more. A full hour to go here on YouTube.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Control of Congress riding on the outcome of tomorrow's midterm election. Republicans hoping a red wave will help them pick up enough seats to gain a majority in both the House and the Senate. Polls show a number of key races will likely go down to the wire. Elon Musk urging independent-minded voters to vote Republican since there's a Democratic president. In a tweet, Musk said shared power curbs the worst excesses of both parties. The new owner of Twitter saying independents have the power to decide who is in charge. Meta is the latest tech company planning to do a mass layoff of workers. Officials with Meta, which owns Facebook, announced the layoffs could happen as early as Wednesday. The Facebook parent company follows Twitter and other Bay Area tech companies that have cut jobs in the last few days. These planned layoffs would be the company's first round of layoffs in its 18-year history. Meta has about 87,000 employees worldwide. President Biden's threat to slap windfall profits tax on oil companies, it's not sitting well with some in Congress. Texas Republican Tony Gonzalez says the president is to blame for driving up gas prices in the first place. President Biden has accused oil and gas companies of war profiteering, pointing to their huge third quarter profits. A new study shows the antiviral drug Paxlovid reduces the risk of long COVID. Researchers at the Department of Veterans Affairs analyzed records of thousands of veterans diagnosed with COVID. What they found is those who'd been treated with Paxlovid had a 26% lower risk of developing disease, fatigue, liver and kidney disease, and muscle pain. Prime Video releasing the trailer for its new dark comedy series called Mammals. This show stars James Corden as a chef whose world turns upside down when he finds out shocking details about his pregnant wife. James Corden,
I think they send the food back to Jim Corden when he's the
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
And Jimmy Kimmel,
subplot.
Another late night host being selected to host this year's Academy Awards. It'll be the third time.
It. We love Jimmy.
3 times for Kimmel. He'll take the stage as Oscar host after hosting in 2017 and 2018. The show hasn't had a solo host since 2018 and was affected by the pandemic in 2020. The 95th Oscars taking place 12th at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call. It's 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can catch him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Their envy wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm going to have to look that one up.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Yes, we are live on YouTube and delighted that you joined us. We'll get into acknowledgments for all of you who've made contributions, but please, if you can find it in your heart to smash the like button, that's the way we algorithmically become relevant in YouTube land. So yeah, it's a strange thing that you need. Like you can have a bunch of people watching and people watching in replay, but the degree to which they become engaged and hit you
with your iron rod
and you smash that like button, that makes a difference, as well as the degree to which you leave comments and stuff. So that's all important. Don't want to delay any further. We're so lucky to have this guy. He is such a great analyst and authority when it comes to politics for so many years with us on the old station. And now he's come over to this new platform. Gary Dietrich, everybody. Hi, Gary.
Hey, good to be here, buddy. And listen, man, I am liking the merch behind you there. That is a good offering of merch.
Thank you, sir. You know, and this is just a sliver of it, a flavoring of it. I mean, this is the Cagio and Exile T-shirt, which we should get for Gary. Or maybe you'd be interested in a tote bag or a mug. They're mugs and...
Hey, how about you can drop a mug on me and I'll take it to the TV station. We'll infect TV world while we're at it.
I love that. I love that. All right, that's what we're going to do. We'll send you, John, please, if you would, get Gary's mailing address, and we'll and we'll send him something. I think
Let's keep that
producer
top
John
secret
Daly.
because, I don't need people showing up at my front door trying to, shove a registration card in my hand 63 times in the next 6 months. We'd like you to come to our side of the party or else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've got a boy. They knocked on the wrong door when they knock on your house. Man, that is. It's interesting to see how the Get Out the Vote movement has changed, and yet there is an old school quality to it, perhaps that will always exist.
Well, I think people do underestimate. We call it the ground game in politics, Mark, and that is the GOTV effort. So they're basically conducted for the most part very similar to the way they were in the past. Many people may not realize, but when you go down to the your local county elections office, I can find out when you voted. Now, I can't find out how you voted, who you voted for, but you voted in 2016 or 2018 or whatever it is. And that's how campaigns generate their lists, their walking lists and their prompting lists to get people to turn out at the polls based on so-called likely voters. And so those lists are exceptionally important. They're procured by campaigns. You can get them. And then people go out and knock on doors or call people. Or now, I don't know about you, but I am getting all kinds of text messages. How?
Yes.
I don't know. And
Yes.
they prompt voters to get out to the polls. And then if you're really sophisticated in these operations, and I participated in this way back when working on a presidential campaign, voters are ID'd in advance. Well, are you a Biden supporter or Trump supporter? Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, okay, boom. You get that check mark, and those are the people you really go after, of course, make sure they show up on election day.
If you have a question for Gary Dietrich, you can put it into the chat, and we will pass it along to
Why
him
don't
if
you
there's
just
time. I
text
wanted
it?
to ask you about whether or not there'll be a GOP wave for real. But before you answer, I want to get your comments on something Michael Moore was saying over the weekend. I was going to play a little bit of that. And so I'd like you to remark on this, because he thinks the Democrats have the power to actually prevent any kind of red wave. But I want you to factor what he's saying into, at least address it into your remarks, if you would, please. So here's Michael Moore.
So another group that's going to show up in very large numbers are young people, young adults. Back in 2014, 15% of 18 to 29-year-olds showed up to vote in Michigan in the off-year election of 14. Just 4 years later, in 2018, that went from 15% of young people showing up to 32.2%. More than double in just 4 years showed up. And that trend has continued. Actually, it's really sort of started in Barack Obama's first election. Across the whole country, young people, the white 18 to 29-year-old vote was the only white demographic that Obama won in that first year. I know it's hard to believe, right? So how did he win? Well, he won because about 70% of the eligible voters in this country now are either women, people of color, or 18 to 35. Those are the three groups, or a combination of the three. A young black woman, for instance. So with that in mind, you think of 70% are the base, or the traditional base of the Democratic Party: women, people of color, young people. If we show up, this is ours. In the states where they ask you, are you a Democrat or Republican? When you register, you have to list the party. There are 20 million, and there's about 40 some states, 20 million more register as Democrats over Republicans. In 7 of the last 8 presidential elections, the popular vote has gone to the Democrat running for president. Only once in 34 years, since George I in 88, only once since then has the Republican got the popular vote.
So you get the idea, Gary Dietrich, the idea somehow that there is this, there's an explosion of Democratic political gunpowder that can go off if those people show up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Moore raises a couple of interesting things I think are worth touching on. Number one, I do think youth vote, that was documented, certainly during the Obama candidacy, went up. The question is it going to stay up for Joe Biden and for Democrats? That's a huge if. We really don't know that yet, Mark, but that has the potential to grow. But the youth vote has always had potential to grow. They have always been amongst some of the lowest turnout demographic. I would love, by the way, let me just say this across the board before I comment further on this. I would love for everybody to vote. I think engagement is exceptionally important. And when we don't have it, you have the kind of anarchist tendencies that never go well. So youth vote, will it stay up? Question mark. Secondly, he talked about the traditional, and that's the word I want to hit on there, the traditional base of the Democratic Party. He talked about people of color, women, young voters. Here's the thing. There are some clear trends right now in this election that show, just take the Hispanic vote, which is the most pronounced in this category I want to talk about. It's shifting. It's dramatically drifting. And this election cycle, amongst particularly Latinos, Hispanics, it has been drifting GOP. So there are some real question marks amongst Democrats themselves about how traditional is our traditional base. And there's going to be an awful lot of breakdown that happens after the midterms tomorrow, Mark, about going into 2024, who can we count on? So that's a big deal. And then last one I'll point out is this, and that is energy and turnout for this election. Now, there's been some interesting numbers just in the last week that has shown the sort of energy or the passion for turnout rising amongst Democrats and equaling that of Republicans, which it's been lagging behind for some time. That too is going to be very carefully watched, and watch for one county in particular that both parties right now have under the microscope, and that is one that's been watched for many, many election cycles, Miami-Dade County in Florida. Right now, I mean, Democrats, that has been a bastion. That's been their sort of, fortress in Florida to hold on to that state. Right now, the early numbers show more Republicans voting in Miami-Dade than Democrats. That would not bode well for Democrats in this cycle and in 2024.
The red wave, the Latino thing that you point to, you've underscored a couple of really key things. The Latino thing, as you were talking about, I was thinking, well, that offsets in a way, maybe in terms of numbers, the youth vote. Like even, I was just thinking about Michael Moore's kind of equation that he was laying out. It's really contingent on these pockets of traditionally Democratic support showing up. So if you grant that there'll be a big youth vote or a significant youth vote, but you lose a Latino vote, those things could zero out. I mean, again, you have to see, but in terms of trying to handicap it, you see how the Democratic Party has a tough hill to climb, notwithstanding that, they might have some advantages with pockets of people who may or may not show up. But I'm wondering what a even partial red wave would look like. You think the House would likely be the first place that the red wave would be manifested, right? That's almost a lead pipe cinch to
absolutely.
Go Republican.
Yeah, you historically speaking, it's the House that is always the trendsetter in these midterms, and that the numbers now, are very well parsed. If a president is above 50%, they're likely in a midterm, and they're sitting president, they're likely to lose X number of House seats. Below 50%, which of course where Biden is now, they're likely to lose X amount. And if you look at like the Real Clear Politics average, by the way, of what they think is going to be the red wave, so to speak, in the House, they peg it right now at 31 seats as the average amongst their polling that Republicans are likely to pick up. And that squares with history, by the way. So people that want to just totally diss Biden understand this is a long-standing trend for a number of decades. Let me say one other thing, if I could, Mark, about those more numbers. He talked about 20 million more Democrats registering than Republicans. What he doesn't mention that's exceptionally important, of course, is where they are registering. So if you have a large Democratic registration in California and New York, well, that might provide you a bulwark for those states, and even the New York governor's race being closely watched now to see if a Republican for the first time in 20 years can win that state. But the problem is that you have to win state by state, right? So a U.S. Senate seat in, Wisconsin is not going to be at all impacted by big Democratic registration margins in Republican short states like California and New York. So that's important to keep in mind as well.
That's such a good point. And when you talk about congressional seats, that is to say in the House, you've got a gerrymandered world that has been aggressively and effectively. I mean, it is it's a way to ensure that your party does well. It's been aggressively gerrymandered on the GOP side. I think the Democrats have been, and based on what I've read, sort of less than effective in their gerrymandering. And they have the same chance to gerrymander in states that they control.
Well, I think one of the things that is going to be one of the hard woodshed lessons that's going to come out of this election for Democrats, if all the numbers, really all the trends continue to point towards the Republican wave of whatever size, is you've got to start at the bottom. What do I mean by that? Republicans started 10, 15 years ago because they were on this losing end of the stick for a long time, and including on this gerrymandering deal over the last election cycle. They said, wait a minute, we have got to begin to recruit candidates for state legislatures, because remember, it's state by state are how these seats are drawn, as they are in California, the House seats drawn by a California redistricting commission. So the key is you've got to control state legislatures and governorships. Republicans now control 30 of the 50. And again, going back to real clear politics averages, they right now are predicting potentially a GOP pickup of 3 more governorships. That's exceptionally important. Again, it won't be affected again for another 10 years when we have the census in 2030, and then 2032, new districts will be drawn. But those things are key.
We're talking to Gary Dietrich, and here's a comment from Jim Avila. Dems not losing Latino vote. GOP increased a lot, but their percentage is so low it is irrelevant. Women. They will make the difference. They have registered greatly. It is true, Gary. This is a phenomenon. How do you see the vote from women factoring into the results?
Well, Jim and I, we can go back and forth about this. I'm not going to debate it. You can look at the conservative Latino, those identify themselves as conservative Latinos. They have clearly shifted over the last couple of election cycles. So that we know. Now, as far as women goes, I think the big question mark there is going to be, Mark, who are the women? Where are they voting? Suburban women have been sort of the swing vote in the female vote. Do they go towards GOP? Do they go towards Democrats? That has been a big question mark. And right now, in certain states, the GOP is polling better amongst women than they have in the past. Could that demographic still be a salvation for Democrats? That's going to be a big question mark. And right now, when you look at the polls across the country, Republicans, again, continue to do better than they have in the last couple of election cycles generically. When we break it down into the so-called tabs, as we call them, the tabulations of these polls, that's where the real parsing is going to be done for 2024, as people then begin to determine where do we put our resources, into what states, and into what demographic categories within those states.
Longtime political analyst Gary Dietrich. 2 more points. I want to get in a moment to what government under GOP control would look like. But I want to put that to the side for a moment. I want to ask you another question, more fundamental. And that is, has the Democratic Party missed the messaging? And I understand they don't message like nobody screams, I think, like the GOP. I mean, who could sell that election thing about how it was stolen? I mean, I can't believe it. But I mean, they sing from the same hymnal. It's the old line, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. It's they speak with such fervor about this thing that they obviously know is ridiculous. But that said, the messaging around the loss of democracy, and I see the loss of democracy as a real possibility. The idea that you could just by fiat throw out the results of an election, this kind of thing, and I see this as a real scenario that could be played out over multiple states in critical ways. But I don't know at this moment in time, with inflation being pinching the way it is, and with they've effectively used, the GOP has, this crime thing. Even though if you look at the statistic, they don't quite all bear it out. It's more of a feeling you have, that things are dangerous. I'm wondering if the loss of democracy is actually being heard as a priority item that gets you to vote a certain way. And it's clearly something that the Democrats have made a big deal out of. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we even heard over the weekend, Mark, more Democratic voices, even on the so-called Sunday morning shows, saying that they feel like, and of course, Newsom has said some of this himself, our own governor here in California, the Democrats have missed the mark on messaging this election cycle. And, to some degree, I understand when things aren't going well in the economy, what do you say? I mean, when inflation is where it is, what do you say about it? But all the polls across the board have showed that you've got, when you ask voters generically, what's the most important thing to you? The economy / inflation is way up there. The most recent polls numbers are around 50%. Drops way down after that. What's the second most important one? And this is one, of course, Democrats hung their hat on: abortion. That's down at 15%. And then you've got, concerns about democracy, et cetera, and the other ones in single digits. So there's just no denying the fact. And many Democrats themselves said, look, those things are important. They're really important. But you've got to tap in. And one Democratic strategist said on one of the shows yesterday, we didn't listen to the voters and what they were telling us. And that has got to change. So that's where we are. And a reminder to people, I don't have an axe to grind. I do not have a horse in this race. You know this, Mark. I am a strictly nonpartisan political analyst at this stage of my career. Hey, that's my training at the Kennedy School at Harvard, and I'm sticking to it. So that's what it is. And, I think there's going to be some important lessons learned from this. I certainly expect Democrats to rebound from this and to take a hard look at some of these numbers and some of these races that they lose. And there will clearly be a course correction, a sea change going into 24. I have no doubt about that.
I have a question for Gary, if I could. And I've been watching a bunch of national races, and I kind of know which ones I think, are going to be the ones to watch. But I'm wondering, on the California level, what do you think is the biggest statewide issue that we should be paying attention to in this race?
Well, I think some of them are at this point, Kim, that's a great question. We only have, by the way, this is interesting, we only have 7 propositions to vote on this time. I know this sounds crazy. That's the lowest number we've voted on as Californians reportedly in over a century. Now, I haven't been voting for a century, but those are the numbers. So, and some of those are kind of foregone conclusions. Prop 1, the abortion constitutional amendment, that's passing by polling numbers by about 2/3. A lot of people felt like that was redundant anyway. It was already protected in our Constitution. The 2 big gambling initiatives, by the way, both going down in flames. One of them only has 20-something% support, the other 30% support. So those are likely to go down as well. So I don't think it's at the proposition level, which it often is, by the way. And we're going to see those come back, by the way, in the next election cycle or two. So
we'll see those propositions return, just like we've seen the kidney dialysis thing came back.
I can't get away from dialysis. It's like, how many times do we have to tell you no?
Yeah.
Well, this is the 3rd cycle, guys, that's there. Whether the SEIU union, the unions behind this does it again, I don't know. But the gambling thing, because when you're staring down $52 billion in 2021 in sports betting, they're going to be back. And there's already rumblings I'm hearing. They're already planning the campaigns for next time around. So, Kim, it's going to be, I'll tell you, there's one race that a lot of people are interested in. And I think this one is going to be worth watching. And that's for a relatively obscure statewide office in most people's minds, state controller, the Republican Lan He-chen, an Asian, a moderate Republican, worked on in 2 different administrations, both Democrat and Republican in Washington. People are wondering, can Republicans actually win a statewide race? There's been many papers that have actually endorsed him, and it's going to be very interesting to watch to see if he can break through the Democratic hegemony. And
hegemony, yes, very well done. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know what? I got to tell you guys a funny aside. This is hilarious. My yellow lab, I have to sequester during these interviews now because our doorbell, Mark, sounds exactly like your ding.
I love that. I love it. You're not alone.
I have to be careful. I have to either use my very small linguistic capabilities and not earn a ding, or I have to sequester Courage is his name. Otherwise, he will go off, and it's your fault, Mark. I want you to know.
You're not alone. We had other listeners who have mentioned this as a problem. So,
okay.
Yeah, misery loves company.
That, Kim, I think is the one state wide race to watch. And then there's also going to be some very interesting analysis about our congressional seats. I'll real quickly say, here's the president campaigning in a San Diego congressional seat last week to try to hold on for a Democrat down there. So, even in our own state, there's a battleground brewing for those congressional seats.
I only have another second with Gary Dietrich, but here's something from Murphy Rowan, who's a regular, just reported this morning, Democratic-led Allegheny County in Pennsylvania probably throwing out thousands of mail-in ballots due to a date-entered glitch. I saw this as well, Gary. They claimed that they didn't have the date written. It has to be handwritten on the outside of the return. It really is quite bizarre. Could you speak to that?
Well, votes are going to be challenged. I mean, look, the reality is the cake has now been baked that when you're going to have, hordes of attorneys on both sides watching a lot of states, a lot of counties. And those are the kinds of things, Mark, this was debated in Pennsylvania last time. And there's going to be a lot of those kind of cases going forward that help determine the outcomes in some of these states. And court challenges are not going to be avoided.
And then finally, I'll leave you with this from B Cleaner. The economy is not the most important thing to me. The thing I want is no crazy people in office. More important than anything. Has the crazy quotient gone up a little bit, Gary Dietrich? You've been doing this a long time. Come on.
Well, I think certainly the vociferous nature of craziness has definitely gone up.
Vociferous. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Courage, for staying silent. The embattled nature of it, Mark, I don't think any question has gone up, and I don't see that fervor going away certainly anytime soon. But right now, what we need is a California proposition, a ballot measure. We have to have screening for crazies. That's what it has to be, right there. A crazy screening test has to be passed before you can run for office.
Yeah, I do think you're right. There's always been loud, rancorous debate. Rancorous is a ding word too. But I think the reality is, Gary, there is a sense that the agenda and agenda items and what's being said on the stump nationwide, but it's also supported by individual candidates here in California. It's become a little detached from the reality. We've always spun facts in this country in the past. Politicians are famous for that, and punditry sort of supports them. But there does seem to be another level of denial about certain facts that it's of concern. So when somebody writes in, I want to keep the crazies out, yeah. But of course, crazy is always from where you sit. Is that sort of what you were hinting at before, right?
Well, yeah, my famous movie line related to crazy is Jack Nicholson opening his front door, hair all Jack Nicholson in his bathrobe. We don't need any more crazy. We're all filled up around here. And I think that's what probably a lot of people feel like.
He is so great to spend time with us and regularly stop through. We're going to get him some Mark merch, and we'll get that off to you, Gary Dietrich. And we look forward to your thoughts as the dust settles after tomorrow. We may not have a count until when, Gary?
Sometime. I mean, I want to remind people real quick, voting tip, you can turn in your mail-in ballot. It can be put in any postal box, clear up until Election Day tomorrow. You don't have to put a stamp on it. And that's the way to do it. If you want to vote in person, look in your local election guide in the front. There'll be local sites you can go to, encourage people to vote. But Mark, it's going to be at least days, in some places, potentially weeks before we know some outcomes, if they're not overwhelming.
He is, as I say, our go-to guy. Gary Dietrich, everybody. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Bye, pal. Yeah. Love him. Love him. Really something special, yeah.
Supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I didn't get to what the House and Senate might look like and the presidency as well with GOP control, and I will get to it after Kim's News, bottom of the hour. Thank you for all the ways you interact with us. You can toss your thoughts into the text.
Why don't you just text it?
Yeah, the text right there on YouTube. And even if you're watching this in replay, you can toss your thoughts into the replay comments, and I'll respond to them. We can respond the next day. I go back through all the comments. I mean, we're building a community here, so I go through the comments. I think John goes through the comments. I don't know if Kim does or not. She's got 2 kids that she has to wrangle.
No, I do. I go through them during the show, though, and sometimes I'll respond.
So the point is, we want to hear you and we want to respond, and to the degree that we can in the moment we will, but otherwise we'll try to do it the next day and try to integrate some of the things that you are commenting on into our conversation, at least at that moment. So all of that is to say, please participate. And smash that like button. Got to get the likes going. You need the number of views, the number of likes to come together. Then I'll acknowledge all of you who've hit. We need nobody likes. Where's that? We love that drop, but it's where is it? Nobody likes her.
Nobody likes her.
That's it. Right. Thank you very much. All right. So John, remind me. Can I get into the House and Senate, what they might look like when we come back?
Yeah.
We don't have an. Okay, good. Sometimes I lose track of. whether we've done stuff.
You're
or
doing
not,
a great job, MT.
Thank you. It's a Mark Thompson Show. We're live on YouTube.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. House will give her first interview tonight since her husband was attacked. Nancy Pelosi will talk to CNN's Anderson Cooper. Paul Pelosi suffered a fractured skull and serious injuries to his hands and arm after being attacked late last month at the couple's San Francisco home. He was released from the hospital last week, and the suspect in this case, David DePape, is facing several charges, including attempted murder. Flu cases surging early, reaching their highest hospitalization level in more than a decade. The CDC says there are high levels of flu in the Southeast, especially in Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee. There's also significant spread in New Jersey, Connecticut, and 11 other states. It's the final day of campaigning for candidates across California, many of them out over the weekend, pushing for those votes ahead of tomorrow's midterm elections. Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to easily win a second term. Same for Senator Alex Padilla running for re-election. Statewide, voters will decide on 7 ballot initiatives, including whether to make abortion a constitutional right and whether to allow sports betting. Also, speaking of Governor Gavin Newsom, he is fighting for more student loan relief. Doesn't want nearly 4 million borrowers to have to pay state tax on the amount being forgiven by President Biden's program. So he's calling on the state legislature to take early action and waive those taxes. It's estimated that move will provide Californians more than $1 billion in tax relief. The proposal will be part of his budget when it's released in January. Apple is warning that shipments of iPhones from China will be disrupted. That's because of strict COVID rules in place at an assembly plant that makes the iPhone 14 Pro and the iPhone Pro Max. The plant employs about 200,000 people. Many workers there have apparently fled in face of the stringent COVID protocols. Elon Musk is not taking kindly to celebrities who decided to impersonate him on Twitter. The social media giant's new owner is banning users who impersonate others without clearly labeling their accounts as parody. The announcement came after countless verified blue check users changed their names to Elon to share a wide variety of nonsense. Pays to play. Kind of, maybe. We're hoping more than 1.5 million Powerball tickets in California are worth money right now. How much? They won some sort of prize from Saturday's drawing. While no one took the massive jackpot, 3 people came so close, matching 5 numbers to score $1 million each. Those tickets were sold in California in Susanville, Encinitas, and San Leandro. Now tonight's jackpot.
Wow, that's 2 in NorCal, 1 in SoCal.
Right, that's exactly it. So $1 million, we've got 3 more millionaires in the state, you could say. Although $1 million doesn't go very far in California. But you know what does go far? 1.9 bill, baby. And that is tonight's jackpot. It is the largest ever. And we have the Mark Thompson Show pool. We are playing and we are winning tonight. Wow. God, if no one wins, what's it going to be? Like $2.5 billion?
Yeah, must be really hard to win. I'm starting to think our odds are not that good.
My husband says, well, it's always 1 in 92 million is your odd for Powerball.
What is it? 1 in 192 million? Sorry,
292.
1 in 292 million. Yeah. My husband.
And if you get 2 tickets, it's 2 in 292 million.
No, it is not. So my husband says, that's too much. I don't want to win that much. I'd like to win 10 million, but now you're getting to the point where if you win that much, I'll be mad.
This just in, you won't, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. You're okay. Keep on going. Yeah. So says you, Mark Thompson. I am the winner. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz, who is awaiting my call when I do win for more than 30 years. Steve already has a plan for the lotto winner. He's put his tax
that's not fake. That's real.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, go for it.
He says to take the cash plan. He already knows exactly what to do. He's waiting for me to call. So Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. Need help with your taxes? Give him a call. It's 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson. It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Good times, everybody. Good times. What can I say? We've had a great show so far. I think it's been pretty great. Gary Dietrich was really good and had some knowledge that he put up alongside Michael Moore as we were trying to do the arithmetic on the election. You've been great. Bill Marshall. Come on, Bill Marshall. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bill Marshall with $10. Thanks for being here, Bill says, with a super sticker. Thank you. That's one of the ways you can support the show, super sticker or super chat. Would love to see Muttville Senior Dog Rescue on. Yeah, we should put them on. That's from the Archihuahua. Thank you, Archihuahua, for $1.99. Yeah. You can hit us with a super sticker, hit us with a super chat. We'll read the super chat 100% of the time. So it's a good way to get a comment in. Where you could buy a lot of crudité for $1.9 billion. That is true. Although, I wonder what Mehmet Oz's net worth is. I'm betting he's already got, you think it's $100 million? Probably, easily, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, with Oprah's help, tips, tricks.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's got and all those other things that he's got.
All those miracle cures.
Yeah, the miracle cures pay something. That's absolutely right.
The snake oil.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what the internet says about Mehmet Oz, who's in the dead heat now. This guy, Fetterman, was leading by a lot. I think north of 10 points until the stroke. The stroke has definitely changed the arithmetic. But
wow, you're right. $100 million as of 2021 for Mehmet Oz.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, it's nice to have money. But he really plays the everyman so well, doesn't he? When he talks about the crudité and the crudité thing.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité.
More to the point, I wanted to share with you what the government might look like under GOP control. And, control of one party can take on several different manifestations, right? Like it can, the GOP is, and we were talking to Gary about this, can take control of the House, but not have control of the Senate or the presidency. Similarly, GOP could take control of the House and the Senate and not have control of the presidency, or they could have all three. I see the House is about investigations, right? The House is about money and appropriations as well, but Senate is all about judiciary appointments. And so I see the Senate as critical. And here's the one point. Well, watch this, and then I'll tell you why I think it's particularly important, the Senate. Please don't misunderstand me. You want control as much as you can, but here's a little something we got from Vox, and I thought I'd share it with you. Take a look.
Scenario 3, Republicans win the House and the Senate.
The Senate has to confirm any federal judge. I'm Ian Milheiser. I'm a lawyer, and I cover the Supreme Court for Vox. The president nominates anyone who's going to be appointed to the federal bench, but they don't get the job unless a majority of the Senate votes to confirm that individual. There's a little more than 800 active judges in the federal system. There are district judges who try cases, court of appeals or circuit judges, and then there's the Supreme Court. The last time we had a Democratic president and a Republican Senate was in 2015 and 2016. Under Barack Obama, the Republican Senate basically hit stop on Supreme Court confirmations and on nearly all Court of Appeals confirmations.
Can you stop right there, Tony? Because what I'd like to mention, and this is why this is so critical, I think, is because then we'll continue with it, is that in this country, because of a number of different things, but the way government has ground on, I suggest political wins, et cetera. You stay with me, and I think you'll agree. The courts have been increasingly the way laws have been made and the way stuff gets done. So the appellate process and the notion that everything essentially can be litigated in the courts, that has opened the door to these court appointments being even more powerful than they were in the past. So literally, you can have legislation that makes it through. Well, look at the Affordable Care Act. Look how that has now been litigated over and over and over again. Now, they haven't successfully overturned it, but the point is, if you get enough of these judgeships, you control life in America. That's why I see the Senate confirmation process and the way it, well, and as just was noted here, the way it held out those confirmations during the Obama presidency, I see it as critical. It's all important, but because of where America is now and how much is done through the courts, I see these judgeships as critical on another level than they used to be. Back to it, Tony, please.
Appeals confirmations. And then, of course, what happened was Republicans held all those seats open until Donald Trump got into office and then filled them with Republicans. Trump's judges overruled Roe v. Wade, which is the reason why abortion is now illegal in many U.S. states. A sweeping reinterpretation of the Second Amendment, our firearms amendment, and now judges are striking down gun laws left and right. A wholesale attack on voting rights, particularly on the Voting Rights Act, which is the law that prevents race discrimination. At the lower court level, we just had 3 Trump judges declare the entire Consumer Financial Protection Bureau unconstitutional. If Republicans take the Senate, then they can block the confirmation of any judge. If you hold those seats open, they're still vacant when a Republican comes to office, and then the Republican can fill them. The Republican Party, which is an institution that wants power, has figured out that if it controls the judiciary, it can gain potentially a permanent veto power over any law that's enacted, over any regulatory policy that's enacted, regardless of who controls the White House and regardless of who controls the Congress.
That what he said at the end there is absolutely what I was saying. That the power is in the courts. If you have all the judges, it doesn't matter if you have the Senate and the House and the presidency anymore. It's the horse is out of the barn. That's why these judgeships are critical. These judicial appointments are critical. And you get none of them if you lose the Senate. So I watched that Warnock-Walker thing. We talk about it. I mean, I can't believe, I had a comment come in. I think it was on the email. That's right. I should check the emails because we did.
I've received a lot of positive.
Where is my, hang on a second. I have my email.
Where are those pictures?
Where are those pictures I was supposed to see? I really,
and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
The email is alive, and thank you so much. And I look at it over the weekend and all times of day, so thank you. It's themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And somebody said, we played the... I can't find the precise email right this instant. Sorry about that. But she was making the point that we played a Walker when Pat was here on Friday. We played the Walker comments on the stump and how he was meandering and how he essentially gravitated to GOP talking points, but kind of did it in that, he's just not adept at any kind of rhetorical stump speech. I mean, he's not any kind of environment that requires any sort of rhetorical smoothness or he's not good that way. Now, by the way, let me just say this. That doesn't mean he's a bad candidate. He's a bad candidate for other things. He's a moron. He's probably the most incompetent moron to run for public office in my lifetime. Although I think it's a hotly contested category. But the fact that he doesn't speak well.
The moron category?
The moron category is, but I do think
Trump's like, wait a minute, I won that category. You can't take that from me.
So this guy Walker, the fact that he doesn't speak well is my point, isn't necessarily a disqualifier. There are plenty of people who don't speak super well that would perhaps be fine legislators. This guy is counterfeit in every way. He belongs at some Hall of Fame induction for ball players. Anyway, she was making the point, how come you don't play Raphael Warnock? You play that Walker madness, but you don't play Raphael Warnock. Because the absurdity of Walker is the thing that sticks out. Raphael Warnock is a gifted speaker. He's a preacher or minister. He's fine. I mean, I don't think he's the most amazing candidate to come down the line, but he's not even in the same universe as this guy who's just positively awful. I mean, Walker is a joke. He's an absolute joke. But you only see his jokeness when you hear him speak. And so that's why I played for Pat Walker in an extended cut, just to answer the email. I'm astounded at how just because we're talking about Walker, how he's embraced by the GOP. Meaning, how could you not go back to the political lab and concoct a better candidate than Herschel Walker?
Like, that's the best you have to offer? Really? That's
right.
the best you can do? That guy?
But in Georgia, he's got a big name. I mean, he really is someone with tremendous name recognition, although, as I've told you, he's not a Georgian. He lives in Texas. I mean, he's a carpetbagger. Okay, that happens. I get it. It's not unprecedented on either side of the ball.
It's kind of trendy this year.
It is.
It is. It's the new thing.
So, but the idea somehow that, you could spend the last 10 years in Texas, and I think even longer than that, and then somehow claim that you understand what Georgians want, it's laughable. Look, there's a lot about Walker that is laughable. He lies virtually every time he opens his mouth. He's lied about his business record, his academic record. He's lied about the abortion thing. He continues to lie, and yet he's in a dead heat, and the GOP embrace him. And I think that's sort of the new bottom. I mean, just as we try to look for basic competence among lawmakers, it's a new bottom. So,
and as you talk about that, Joe texts in, they will endorse anyone who's offensive. And it seems like that's actually the case. And I wonder, why is that? Why is offensive like the new thing to look for in a candidate?
Well, let me say this about that. When we say offensive, what's offensive to us is not offensive to those who want to take power. Or it is, and they want to look the other way on it. So let's just take those people and put them aside for a moment. But when you're an activist for taking away women's reproductive freedoms, you want to get there any way you can. It's a jihad. You want to get there any way you can. And so the offensive quality that you feel he may have, and that I feel he may have, it's really overlooked on the way to a bigger goal. And that, unfortunately, is the way a lot of politics in America is playing out right now. It is as though the arithmetic involving specifics isn't important. That's why the denying of the election was, it's bizarre, as I was saying to Gary Dietrich. How can any reasonable person, and some of these people are reasonable, even Ted Cruz, the hateful, poisonous Ted Cruz, he knows it's a lie. They've gone on record as saying the last election was legitimate. Many of them who've now flipped, Kevin McCarthy among them, right?
But it's like some people want to hear that hateful rhetoric. It's that, if you hear the hate, if you hear someone being outrageously offensive, well, that's the guy I'm going to vote for. It's like they want to hear that.
It used to be coded hate. You code a lot of your racism, a lot of your anti-immigration talk. And I get the fact that immigration is a legit issue. Both parties agree there's a problem. But when you saw that way in which Trump talked about I have to put my glasses on to see the comment. Trump talked about immigrants. You saw another degree of hate and characterizing immigration in a certain way. But that appeals to a part of this country. And the impoliteness now of the political discourse is something that many embrace. People like the fact that Trump told it like it was and still does. And I think they appreciate all of these high-profile candidates, Walker, DeSantis, etc., speaking in a certain coarse way about the problems that, but it is, and this is the last point, then I want to go to Steve Moskowitz. It is the hate of the other party, the hate of those people who want to take away your guns, take away your Bible, take away your God. They said that. They want to take away your God, and they want to replace it with some trans teaching or, some other woke agenda. That hate is effective. It animates a portion of the electorate. So I agree. It's a loathsome way to think and speak, but
loathsome. I'm dinging loathsome, don't you think?
All right, loathsome. I guess. All right. Yeah, okay. But it's an effective way to speak to, again, get out the vote among a group of people who weren't animated to be a big part of the process before. This guy is our founding sponsor, our exclusive sponsor. He's Steve Moskowitz, everyone. Hi, Steve Moskowitz.
Hi, Mark.
Steve, you were covering last hour a little bit of the questions involving what you do if you cannot pay your taxes. And I was really learning something because I didn't realize that there are as many options as there are, and because oftentimes you can't pay your taxes, not because you don't want to, but because you don't have the money to do it. And then you were sort of suggesting, yeah, that's actually potentially a legitimate excuse for not having to pay the full amount, but having some kind of negotiation with the government.
Absolutely. You're talking about an offer in compromise, and there's three basic grounds. And the big deal about an offer in compromise is you only pay part of what you owe, and they forgive the rest. You never owe it. It just goes away. One is you don't have the income and assets. It's called doubt as to collectability. That's the biggest one. You just don't have the money. And, people's circumstances really change. A business goes down, all of a sudden they don't have the money, or somebody loses their job and they get another job, but the pay is different. And also you have doubt as to liability, where you say, look, I don't owe these taxes. I know I got this bill, but I don't owe it. And the third one is it would be unfair to collect the taxes. And, people laugh when they say unfair, but there really is good reasons. Like somebody is sick and they have some money, but if they pay their taxes, they won't have the money for their medicine and they'll die. I mean, things really happen. And that's one area. Another one is a penalty abatement. Sometimes you can have penalties and interest more than the taxes. And one of the things we go after is getting the penalties forgiven. And there's a lot of good reasons to forgive the penalties. What happens is when you owe taxes, the IRS computer automatically puts the penalties on. It's not like you go before a judge and he says, well, you're guilty or not. Okay, I'm going to penalize you. The computer just automatically puts it on you. But our job is to get it off if you qualify. And there's a lot of good qualifications there. Or you pay in monthly installments that you can afford. And I'm talking about where you're not eating rice soup every day, because there can be a big difference of opinion as to what somebody can afford or not, or what's a necessary expense or not. And then the hardship area where you say, look, something happened. Somebody got sick, somebody lost a job, something happened. Leave me alone for a while, and then I'll get back to you and we'll talk one of these other areas. A lot that can be done, but watch out. Whatever you do, don't stick your head in the sand. A lot of people do that. And then what happens one day, they don't get a paycheck because the IRS seized it all. Or the bank account is cleaned out and you have the unhappy situation where somebody can't pay rent or mortgage or feed their kids, and it gets very emotional. And look,
let me ask you a question about that, Steve Moskowitz. Can they garnish my wages, or more to the point, if I'm out of work, they can go into my bank account? They can't do that without a court proceeding or something. I would be told.
No. We're not talking about a credit card. Yes, they can go into your bank account, and it's a sneak attack, Mark, because a lot of times people go up and say, and the IRS just took all my money and didn't give me any warning. And I said, well, what would you do if they warned you? They said they would have moved their money. I said, that's why I don't warn you. It's a sneak attack. You don't say to somebody, on Thursday, I'm going to sneak up on you and stick a knife in your back. You could do. Yeah. It's a sneak attack. That's why they don't warn you.
Wow.
So yes, you could be unemployed, Mark, and your money is in the bank.
Why do you keep coming back to unemployed, Steve Moskowitz? Is that are you suggesting? I feel look, the wound is still fresh from my unemployment.
I don't. You are not unemployed. You have ascended.
Thank you.
I've watched your career, Mark. As you know, I was your avid. I was your avid fan when you were in LA, and I watched you on TV.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, of course, you came to KGL or Station X, and then now you've ascended to your own show. You're the person now.
Well, when you put it like that, I feel much better.
Do you know who I am?
Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I forgot. I lose track once in a while. Anyway, go ahead, Steve. So you're saying, but if you're unemployed or whatever, and they
don't know or care, because what happens is, this is not like a credit card. They don't need any court order. The IRS, the state, they just go in and they take it. They just take it. You'll be notified when it's gone. And I've had people call up in a panic saying, look, they can't buy food for the kids. So the bottom line is, these new 87,000 agents that are being hired by the IRS, they got to do something, and they're going to be chasing down people. And they've been very specific. They're going after people that haven't paid their taxes. There's also criminal provisions that are rarely invoked, but they're talking about that. The government's spending a lot of money now. We know there's all these programs. We talk about ERC most of the time. Well, the government's writing checks. They got to get money to come in. And PPP and Ukraine, there's a tremendous outflow from the Treasury. So they're looking to get that money back in there. And the bottom line is, those agents are going to come after you. Don't let these bad things happen to you. Most of them it's like a medical thing. Most of them are avoidable. It's like you feel the chest pain. Just say, I'll go to the doctor when I can't breathe, when I'm rolling around on the floor in pain. No. You want it like a medical problem. You want to treat it as early as you can. Don't wait until it's that heart attack.
Steve Moskowitz, so great. What a resource. And he's available to you. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. I mean, call him and say, hey, saw you talking to Mark, and I've got some questions and wondering if you can help me. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. It's spelled Moskowitz. Steve Moskowitz at MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, thank you. And thanks for all your help, pal. All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody.
Why are you yelling?
The Mark Thompson Show.
And John, we have things to do. Yeah, we do. Check out the people who support us. Candace Mick. Come on, Candace Mick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Candace, for $20. Awesome. You can support us with a super sticker. You can also, Jay Carpenter with a super sticker.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Very, very cool. $4.99. Brian Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. $2 super sticker from Brian Kim. Thank you for all the ways you support us, guys. The super stickers, the super chats, they all matter. The Patreon subscriptions, such a great way to support the show on an ongoing basis. And there's a PayPal link. And that exists at themarkthompsonshow.com. themarkthompsonshow.com. You have to put in the Mark Thompson Show. Otherwise, you'll end up at the website for a Christian ventriloquist who is very good, I'm sure. Yeah, but he's not us. So themarkthompsonshow.com is where you can find a link to Patreon. You can find a link to PayPal if you want to make a one-time contribution or even a monthly contribution. There are ways to support through PayPal as well. And you can also find links to other shows, etc. Yes. Kim.
Someone was noting that on the
Kim,
Mark merch,
yes,
there is no the.
No, there is not.
And so what are we really advertising here? Is it the Mark Thompson Show or the Christian ventriloquist? Is he in KGL?
What? Yeah. I would say there's a get at Get Mark merch. There's a getmarkmerch.com. That's where you can get the KGO and Exile t-shirt. And you can wear the rebellion, my friends. Wear the rebellion in black or white. And all the money goes to supporting the show. And as I mentioned, there's other stuff besides the t-shirts at getmarkmerch.com. John Rothman tomorrow. We're going to have, it's election day, conversation about propositions with John Rothman. We'll also get his drill down on so many things that we talked to Gary about. We'll also we're going to have other voices in also later in the week.
There's no place he'd rather be.
There's no place he'd rather, he wrote me an email literally that said that. Mark, there's no place I'd rather be than with you. And the guy's on brand. You got to love that. We will have, is there anything else I hate to leave, John. I hate to leave with leaving anything on did I mention what's on Nikki's show? What's on Nikki's show today, Kim? You're on Nikki's show.
Great things. I'm on Nikki's show. A lot going on.
Okay.
Basically.
Well, there you heard it.
Yeah.
Sort of. Why not have the other Mark Thompson on your show? Yeah, that's actually a very good thought.
Why don't you just text
Why
him?
don't we do that, John? We have
maybe you can
Christian
switch places.
Oh, that would be a rude awakening for his audience. But I like the idea that I like that though. But John's I think on to something. It'd be fun to have him on the show, but to have him do the show, lay some of that Christian ventriloquism on you, that would be fun. I watched a little bit of him, and he's good. I told you he was good. Remember I said I'm not mocking him. I'm just saying that if you want to come support me, I'm at themarkthompsonshow.com.
That'd be awkward if he was bad and shared your name.
The Nikki Maduro Show. Join us at noon. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Wow. Her legacy, the A's, politics, San Jose's mayor race, a battle over crime and homelessness. Do voters reward bipartisanship or gridlock? Yeah, what do voters reward? That's a great... Nikki's got a great show. I love it. And I love Nikki. And thank you for... Oh, he could do the televangelist theater bit, Natalie says. That's true. The Mark Thompson ventriloquist. Yeah.
This is a word from the Lord.
Yeah, and he is not happy. Let's take a meeting on all of this. I kind of like it. I have to say goodbye. So I'm going to say goodbye. And I'm stalling only because I got to find my Shadow Stevens. Doesn't Shadow have to say bye-bye? Yeah. All right. Anyway, thanks for all the ways you support us. I really appreciate you being here. We've got a big show tomorrow with John Rothman. And
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
And everyone.
All the time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for all the ways you support us, truly. Please vote. Vote your conscience. And then join us tomorrow and all week as we unpack the vote nationwide here in California and beyond. Until next time, bye-bye.